So I often talk on this channel a lot about electoral reform. And I think that going forward, we really need to look at how we can reform our electoral system so that we can really get a more public representative body into Parliament and at least be able to get, people in because our current system is really terrible. It's not really good, like I say. And today we're going to be covering just one of the things that I often say that we need to do, which is reform the House of Lords so that it's an elective Senate that represents the whole of the country. I have said many times that doing just this will change British politics overnight, and it is crucial that this is something that we get on board with. So, we today are going to be going over the Electoral Reform Society on an article they have written just about this, and actually how popular, especially cross-party, this actually is. So, before we do that, please remember to hit that share and like button, and of course down below there are links to support the channel, to my Patreon page, and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to the people that do support me. And of course, if you are interested in reforming the UK's electoral policies and just in general making it more better and representative, then I 100% recommend going and checking out the Electoral Reform Society and Labour for PR. These are two very good bodies that are very good at what they do and are all about political activism and raising awareness that this is something that we need to do. So, on with the article then. So, like I say, this comes from the Electoral Reform Society, and the title is Replace the Lords with a Senate of Regionals to help level up. And I think this would be fantastic because Boris is such a fool and a political opportunist. Imagine we could sneak something in very clear if we said to Boris, hey, you want to level up the country? Okay, let's get rid of the Lords and replace it with, a Senate of regions that will help properly level up this country. Even better if it's done by proportional representation. It could be possible to do it. How that is, I'm not 100% sure. But like I say, any, shall we say, proper reform to the Electoral Commission, either in electing MPs or changing the House of Lords significantly, will probably face stiff opposition from the Tory party because they will want to align it so that it falls in favour of them. So it will be hard to get through, make that no mistake. So anyway, on with the article. So, overhauling Parliament's London-dominated second chamber would help empower the UK's nations and regions, writes Senior Director at the Electoral Reform Society. So, it's been a year since Boris Johnson's victory in the 2019 general election, an election won with a commitment to level up those communities left behind. Since then, our politics has been shaken by a pandemic and has put pressure on the already strained constitutional settlement that holds our nations and regions of the UK together. We've seen attention turned to local and regional government, as well as the devolved administrations, and we've seen how over-centralising nature of Westminster can hamper and undermine public trust. The video of Andy Burnham, the first hearing news of Greater Manchester's COVID funding settlement at a live press conference, will go down as a low point in Britain's patchwork of devolution framework. This is all set to the backdrop of the declining faith in our politics. At the same time, the PM was returning to number 10 last winter. Polling for an Electoral Reform Society showed that just 16% of the public believe politics is working well in the UK, and only 2% feel that they have significant influence over the decision making. For a government publicly committed to a levelling up agenda, this democratic malaise must serve as a warning. It will take more than economic investment or shiny new infrastructure to remedy the feeling of powerlessness that many feel outside of Westminster. Tackling that will require some long overdue reform, This calls for a clear framework of devolution in the UK and has become impossible to ignore in recent months. Even across areas of England with mayors, they feel sidelined this year, but the picture was even worse elsewhere, with zero guarantees that local people would be consulted on changes that would affect their lives immeasurably. So, there's a good way to start empowering the UK's nations and regions, and that's overhauling Parliament's unelected second chamber. Abolishing the outdated and unaccountable House of Lords officers is a chance to rebalance politics away from Westminster and create a representative state of nations and regions. The Electoral Reform Society analysis found that nearly a quarter of peers are based in London, compared to just 13% of the UK public. Over half of 56% of peers live in the capital, or east and south of England, while peers in the East and West Midlands just make up 6% between them, leaving many areas with the Conservatives' one seat in the so-called Red Wall woefully unrepresentative. So it should be said that this is only peers we know about. There are more than 300 that refuse to state even the country they live in. Some do live overseas, which again is sheer madness. Like I say, the more you learn about the House of Lords and how it operates, the more you realise just how much we need to get rid of it. So, hundreds more do not even provide a direct email address for people to get in touch with them in areas they stand up for in their areas. All this undermines the government's stated intention to level up the regions, when we have a chamber that is skewed towards one patch of England. So reforming this London-dominated second chamber is a rare issue that is highly popular across all parties. 71% of the UK public back an overhaul of the House of Lords, and research showed this year the issue cuts across Britain's divides, with an overall backed by a majority of those who voted Conservative or Labour in the 2019 general election, and even those who voted Leave or Remain in the EU referendum. So as well as levelling up representation, with peers elected using a fair proportional voting system, and a genuine accountable second chamber could establish a guaranteed voice for regions of the UK to speak as one, to scrutinise legislation and our constitutional settlement with clear communities in mind. The UK remains one of the most centralised countries in Europe, with the archaic power hoarding in Westminster has a big role to play in why this is. The pandemic has shown just how important it is for those outside the capital to be truly heard. There are many reasons why voters had more confidence in their government's COVID responses when in Wales and in Scotland, but having a bigger stake, being generally in it together, makes a big difference. This is why, and this is a challenge really to all parties, from Boris Johnson as he tries to put a path for recovery for the UK, to Keir Starmer as he begins to outline his own view of devolution. One thing is clear: the London-dominated House of Lords is undermining the voice of local communities. A Senate of nations and regions would be a game changer that we need. And I 100% agree on that. The House of Lords, needs changing. And even though you've probably heard me in the past on videos saying, thank God we've had the House of Lords, because I'll tell you now, during all the Brexit mess, it was the only place where Brexit was actually talked about with any seriousness. And, thank God we had it, because it has saved us so recently in so many ways. But it's time to put it to bed, to put it into the past, and to change it to something new that is going to help a modern Britain go forward. That is what we need. So go to the Electoral Reform Society, join their campaign, join Labour for PR campaign. Those are two campaigns that I definitely on this channel will support going forward, and highly encourage anyone else to go and support them because they are very, very good. So Before you leave, though, please remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and one-off donation link. And thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. And as always, we'll see you next time.